Hey everybody, it's Preacher, and today we're going to look at the leveling process because Legion's nearly here. Everyone knows how to level, I know, but obviously with a new expansion and all kinds of different systems in place, it's important that you hit the triggers and events that we're going to be doing throughout the leveling process so you don't reach 110 and then have to retread all your steps and go over the same stuff that you just did and slow the whole thing down. We're going to do it as if you were level 100 and getting into raiding and mythics as fast as possible, which means if you're not doing that, not to worry, all you have to do is kind of spread the whole thing out, but you will still be doing the same things anyway. All right, guys? So, let's go. So once Legion actually launches and the servers are definitely working, right guys? Definitely 100%. If you want to be the absolute fastest you can be, you should log out in Dalaran. As soon as you log in, you will be prompted to head to Dalaran to witness some cutscene shenanigans. There is no big opening scenario like there is in Warlords of Draenor. Well, instead this time these scenarios are based around the artifact weapon. So within a very few short moments after doing the Dalaran stuff, you'll be visited by a mysterious member who will appear in front of you, telling you, hey, you need to do some stuff and get an artifact weapon. This is going to be important to fighting off the Legion. About 35 minutes after that, depending on which artifact you choose to pursue, I would recommend that you pick the weapon that you're going to be playing with at endgame. If you are a healer, don't worry about it, just pick your DPS. We'll talk about that in a moment. But about 35 minutes later, you should end up in your class hall and be asked to choose where you want to go and level. So hit the pause button. Whoa! Whoa, whoa, whoa. Before we do that, let's make sure we're actually ready. Make sure you've chosen your professions and they're ready to go and everything is set so that you can actually head out into the open world. Our priority throughout leveling to 110 isn't exactly to get to 110 as quickly as possible, it's to make sure that we're progressing everything going on in the background while we're leveling to save ourselves some time later on. If you do go the route of just getting to 110 as fast as possible, what you're going to end up with is having to do a lot of stuff at the back end that you could have easily got done while leveling in a few minutes. Head out into the world, pick where you want to go. In general, it's going to take you about 2.5 zones to complete your quest to 110, depending on if you do everything I tell you in here. If you don't, it will take you more zones, obviously. Dungeons aren't a great way of gaining XP, but if the servers are absolutely shit, then of course doing dungeons with groups can actually be a pretty quick way of doing things. Just remember in the back of your mind, being 110 doesn't mean a great deal in Legion unless you've got all the other stuff actually sorted. Our priorities while leveling to 110 are going to be making sure that our professions are getting done, because we have no flying, so you want to be able to do that while you're already in the world. And also making sure our class hall campaign is advancing properly while we're actually leveling. That means that every time we ding as a golden rule, this is your opportunity to do several things. Once you hit a level, head back to Dalaran, check if anything's happening there. Again, no spoilers, but things will be happening. And then head to your class hall and see if anything is happening there. Something will be happening in one of the two zones, okay? If you don't see anything, that's fine. That means you're not quite ready for it. Not every level gives something, but generally it's everything up to about 107, 108, depending on your class. Check everything's there, and also use this as the opportunity to actually spend your artifact power. Now, many people are concerned about the artifact power gains and how it will affect them if they're a healer for endgame. The way I would recommend it is this. You don't really want to waste artifact power by investing it into a weapon that you're rarely going to use. So if you are a healer at endgame, you'll obviously, let's say you're a priest, you'll probably be leveling a shadow. Every single piece of artifact power you gain in Legion comes in the form of a consumable item, and that item works by spending it, and it will give the artifact power to the weapon you currently have equipped. You absolutely do not need your perks in your artifact weapon to level. In fact, what's better is the relics, and you can freely waste these without any concern at all. The relics, which you have 3 slots, one of them is locked off until you can complete your class hall campaign. 2 of them will be open. They give a significant amount of boost to your item level for your weapon, and also will give you a free perk anyway. So if you are a healer and you're leveling a shadow, for example, then just bank your artifact power gains until much later, or just simply equip your DPS weapon or your healing weapon, whatever it might be, and just spend your artifact power there. You can reset your artifacts in terms of respecking them, but as of right now, I'm not aware of any way of transferring artifact power out of a weapon and into another one. So far, every time you spend artifact power on a weapon, it becomes locked to that weapon to spend as you will, but you can't say put 400 artifact power into one weapon, 600 into another, get that 400 out of one weapon and put it into the other ones and gain 1,000. So far, I haven't found a way of doing that. Please correct me in the comments if there is a way of doing it. So at level 102, you will have the option of gaining the rest of your artifact weapons. Depending on what you're doing, I would get them done anyway, get them out of the way. They don't reward much XP, but they're generally pretty quick, and that's all done and dusted, and you don't have to worry at a later date if you have to spec into something else that you don't actually have a relevant weapon in order to deal with that, or have access to the abilities that come with the artifact weapons. So just go and grab them. Once you've done everything you could possibly do in your class hall and in Dalaran, and any missions that arrive from that, and they will be your priority, then and only then are you ready to go back into the world and start actually progressing with quests. You get very little in terms of actual reward from doing the quest zones, but in order to gain flying at a later date, you're going to have to do the quest zones anyway, which means you should be getting them done. This will continue up to a level 110. Some tips along the way then is follower missions. Follower missions will become a big part of what you're doing later in the game, on about 103 forwards. I would recommend that you only do the quests that the game asks you to do in terms of your followers. It's very different from Warlords of Draenor. Don't think because you have access to followers and you have missions sat there that you have to send absolutely everybody out on a mission. You don't need to do that. What you need to be doing is making sure that anything the game asks you to do, it will give you things like you must complete 5 of these follower missions. Do them. You can then make the decision, if that quest is 12 hours long, can I send my other followers out on something in the meantime that just makes sure that when my priority class hall campaign mission is finished, I have access to all my followers. I ended up in a couple of situations where I needed a certain follower for an important mission, but he was actually out collecting some trivial XP. Again, this is not Warlords of Draenor. The rewards you get from your follower missions are super trivial. Super trivial. You don't need to worry about them whatsoever. Just make sure that you're getting your class hall campaign stuff done as an absolute priority. So following this, if you do all your profession stuff and you go back to Dalaran and you do the stuff that Khadgar gives you and you do your class hall campaign, should result in you reaching level cap around 2.5 zones into the game. Now you have a couple of choices to make. If you leveled super fast and you're waiting for the rest of your guildies or your friends to catch up so you can go and do some dungeons and stuff, you can in fact go and do the rest of the zones and get them done. What I would do under any circumstances is your first priority is to do your world quests. The world quests open up as soon as you hit level 110, and the reason I would give these absolute priority is threefold. Firstly, they give you access to a great deal of gear, resources, and artifact power super quick. These quests are very, very fast to do, and also they generally reward extra bonuses. And also, the second reason is completing 4 of the world quests for any of the 3 factions will reward you with a little cash reward. This means that you open up the chest, and these have, and this is anecdotal, this is totally anecdotal, but it is what we have noticed through the months we have been playing Legion, is these seem to have a greater than average chance of giving you a legendary item. The legendary items are something you're going to be getting throughout Legion, and the rewards for the end of the world quests for each of the factions seems to have a decent chance of giving you better than what we've seen out in the open world. Okay, so you want to get 3 of those, and the first time you hit level 110, you'll have 3 factions available. This system is very cool. Yes, you can complete the absolute minimum, which is 4, in order to get the chest reward. However, that does not mean the world quests disappear. This means that you don't have to say, do I want the artifact power or the class hall resources, which is something you absolutely want all of. You can complete all of the world quests. The only ones I would definitely skip are the gold quests. They're absolutely useless. They reward like 80 gold at the beginning, but you'll get yourself a nice set of gear, good few upgrades. You might even get yourself a decent relic, and you can complete all the world quests for all 3 factions within about an hour and a half. That's how quick it takes. Okay, so now you come back to it, your world quests are done. What do you do next? Again, consider finishing your world quests, the actual leveling zone quests. Why? They give you all the flight points, which is going to be super handy for the world quests, and also you will have to do it at some point. However, if you're interested in going straight into maximum possible gearing, your crafted items, remember, similar to Warlords of Draenor, you should be sorting out amongst your guild if you're in the position where you need all your crafted items ASAP. So I check your guild forums, or at least discuss with your guild what is happening, who is crafting, what's the system we're coming in with in order to make sure I get my crafted items. Other than that, I would head straight to Suramar and start queuing for your dungeons or whatever it is you're going to do. Try and do Suramar and dungeons alongside each other. Why? Suramar gives as much artifact power as you will get throughout your entire leveling process in about 2 hours. Suramar is now absolutely dripping in artifact power. Not only that, but Suramar is going to open the mythic only dungeons, which are Court of Stars and the Archway. You want to get that done as well. They drop some spectacularly important items, guys. I can't even express to you how important these items are. They are crucial if you're going to be doing something important later on, or if you just want to have decent gear. So you want to be able to get access to those mythic dungeons. Remember, the mythic plus dungeons, which is where you can keep upgrading them to get more rewards and more difficulty, etc., is going to come at a later date, but the base mythics will be available from day one, and you want to get there as soon as possible. Also, side by side, do your dungeons, get into the heroic modes as quickly as possible. If you mix in your world quest and Suramar doesn't reward a lot of gear, but it will give you a lot of artifact power. Doing them side by side will give you the absolute fastest way, along with crafted items, to get straight into Mythic and start gearing. Beyond that, you're actually done. What we're trying to do is get to our artifact power research items as quickly as possible. You should be able to start them very quickly around level 108, I believe, in your class hall. Okay, I'm going to confuse those names for the end of time. These missions take 5 days to complete and will increase the amount of artifact power you get. However, they do take 5 days, so the earlier you start it, the absolute best. A little pro tip again along the way here is that the class hall upgrades are very expensive in terms of class hall resources. Make sure you're not going to fall behind on your class hall artifact power research. These are like work orders. Make sure you're not going to screw yourself over and be unable to keep them ticking over, because the more and faster you get those, the better time you're going to have throughout Legion. Okay, they take a really long time. Make sure you have the resources. You can delay a class hall upgrade far better, and it's a much better way to do it than delay doing a artifact power research. That is a little tip for you there. So once you do all this, guys, you should be pretty much mythic geared within a day or so without any issue whatsoever. You should be ready and raring to go and ready to get started into raiding. And of course, as I said at the beginning, if you're not raiding, just take your time slow, but this is still the most efficient way of getting things done. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. Enjoy your leveling experience in Legion. I hope it's going to work out well, and I'll see you again. Bye-bye.